There's this fantasy, I think almost everyone has had it at some point. It's like 3 in the morning, you can't sleep, and you just think, what if I just left?
Right.
And I don't just mean a vacation. I mean, you pack one bag, you walk out the door, you pick a direction, and you just never look back.
It's the geographical cure. It's a classic human delusion, really.
Yeah, exactly. The idea that if you just put enough physical miles between you and your past, the past somehow, loses its grip.
But we always forget that saying, wherever you go, there you are. You think your problems are external, this house, this job, this city?
Though you can't leave your own head behind. And that very concept is the absolute core of the story we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into a piece of horror that takes that whole running away fantasy and just twists it into something honestly terrifying. We are talking about Clark Ashton Smith's A Night in Malnéant.
Oh, a fantastic choice. And for anyone who might only know, say, Lovecraft or Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith is really the third pillar of that whole Weird Tales golden age.
Right, from the 30s.
Yeah, but where Lovecraft is all cosmic and kind of clinical, and Howard is very visceral and action-packed, Smith is something else. He's a poet first. His horror it's lush, it's dreamlike, incredibly atmospheric.
That's a great way to put it. This story, which I think first came out in 33 and then later in Weird Tales in 1939, it doesn't rely on, some monster from the deep. The monster here is memory. It's guilt.
And it's set in a city that feels less like a real place and more like a fever dream. It's really a story about the architecture of guilt, how deep regret can actually reshape the world around you.
So our mission today is to explore how Smith uses that setting, the city of Malnéant, as a mirror for the main character's mind.
We have a narrator who's running from a tragedy he caused, a city completely wrapped in fog, and a twist that forces him to face the one thing he swore he'd forget.
So let's start with him, our guy. We don't get a name, do we? He's just the narrator.
No name. And he's definitely not on a leisure trip. When we first meet him, he's described as weary and just doing this aimless wandering.
Yeah.
Aimless wandering?
Yeah, through the remote cities and roads of the old world. And Smith is probably pinching of his fictional version of medieval France, Aveyron, or somewhere like that, a place sort of out of time. But the key is he isn't moving towards something, he's moving away.
And he's exhausted, right. But the story doesn't really hide why he's running. It drops the reason pretty early. It all comes back to his wife, Lady Mariel.
It does. And this is where it gets really dark. Lady Mariel isn't just dead, she committed suicide.
And Smith gives us a very specific and very damning detail about why. It wasn't just some sudden madness. The text explicitly links her death to the narrator's own behavior.
Yeah, the phrase is his cruel and vicious temper.
And we have to pause on that because that just changes everything about how we see this guy. He's not some tragic widower.
No.
He's an abuser. He broke his wife's spear until she just couldn't take it anymore.
Precisely. That distinction is everything. If he were just grieving, this would be a tragedy. But because he's the cause, it becomes a story about guilt, culpability. He's fleeing the scene of the crime.
Exactly. Even if the law can't touch him. His wandering is just a desperate attempt to outrun his own conscience. He thinks if he just keeps moving, the guilt can't catch up.
So he's dragging this with him across the countryside, and then as evening is falling, he stumbles upon Malnéant. I want to talk about that name, Malnéant. I mean, I took French in high school, and my brain immediately starts picking it apart. Mal is bad or sick.
You're spot on. It's a wordsmith basically made up to pack a punch.
Yeah.
Mal implies evil, sickness, something wrong, and néant, that translates to nothingness, the void.
So he literally walks into the city of evil nothingness.
Or bad void, yeah.
That is not a welcoming sign. If I saw that on a map, I would pull a U-turn so fast.
It creates this sense of dread before he even gets inside the gates. It suggests a place that is, morally bankrupt, or maybe a place that just shouldn't exist at all.
Yeah.
A little pocket of negation in the real world.
And the physical description, it matches the name perfectly. He arrives, and the very first thing he notices is the fog.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just a little mist, it's this heavy, suffocating shroud that just wraps around everything.
Smith is a master of this kind of texture. The fog does two things here. Visually, it isolates him. It cuts him off from the rest of the world, traps him. But psychologically, fog is confusion, right? The inability to see clearly.
Which is exactly what he's doing in his own head.
It mirrors his denial perfectly. But even more than the fog, there's the sound.
The bells.
The bells. And they are not happy wedding bells. Smith describes them as sepulchral, tolling constantly.
Mortuary toll, yeah.
It's this heavy, rhythmic, metallic sound that just gets into every inch of the city.
I mean, just imagine that. You're tired, you're guilty, you're lost in the fog, and all you can hear is this ceaseless B-O-Y, B-O-Y, and B-O. It's like the heartbeat of the city is a dying heartbeat.
It's psychological warfare. The bells are a constant reminder of death. You can close your eyes, block out the fog, but you can't close your ears to the bells.
They're wearing him down.
Right. He enters the city wanting to just sleep, wanting oblivion. But the city is just screaming at him to stay awake and pay attention.
So he tries to find a place to stay. Goes to a tavern, then an inn. He just wants a bed. And this is where things ramp up from just like creepy atmosphere to full-on nightmare logic.
Right, because in a normal city, maybe things are booked up for a big event. But here, he's rejected with this very specific, almost bureaucratic explanation. He's told that all accommodations, every room, every service has been appropriated.
Appropriated. That is such a cold word.
It implies a total takeover.
Yeah.
And when he asks why, they tell him it's for a funeral.
And not just any funeral.
No, they explicitly say it's for the funeral of Lady Mariel.
Okay, freeze frame. This is the moment. He is miles and miles away from home. He hears the name of his dead wife.
The wife he drove to suicide?
Right. He hears that the entire city is shut down for her funeral. A rational person would scream. A rational person would run. What does our narrator do? He completely checks out. He rationalizes it. He tells himself it's an uncanny coincidence. An uncanny coincidence, that is. Wow. That is some heavy lifting for the human brain.
Oh.
Must be another Lady Mariel having a massive state funeral in this random foggy town I just walked into.
It seems totally absurd to us reading it.
Yeah.
But this is actually a pretty realistic depiction of how the mind protects itself from trauma or, extreme guilt.
How so?
Well, if he admits that it's his Lady Mariel, his entire reality just collapses. He has to admit he hasn't escaped a thing. So his brain, it builds a wall. He decides it's a coincidence because the alternative is just.
It's madness. Yeah.
It is. So he's wearing these blinders. He's walking through the streets. Everyone is preparing for this funeral. The people aren't, living their lives. They're all somber, carrying wreaths, sewing black cloth.
The whole town is like a stage crew setting up for a tragedy.
And notice how they're described. They barely register. They're like ants working for the colony. Their only purpose is this ritual. It adds to the feeling that Malnéant isn't a real functioning city. It's a machine built for one thing.
This funeral. And the narrator's just walking through it feeling like an outsider, but we, the readers, we know he's the guest of honor. Or maybe the prisoner.
He's the center of it all. And he's just refusing to look at the center.
Eventually, he just kind of gets swept up in the crowd, right? He can't ignore the flow. The bells are getting louder. The crowd is moving. And he ends up at the cathedral.
And Smith's description of the cathedral, it's not a place of sanctuary. It sounds heavy, oppressive. It's the architectural heart of the bad void.
No.
Right. The bells are deafening here. The incense is thick. He enters the nave, and again, you can feel the pressure building. He is physically moving closer and closer to the truth he's been running from.
He walks up to the coffin, the open coffin.
Yeah.
And this is the moment the blinders are just ripped off. He looks down.
And Smith doesn't play any games here. It's not a skeleton. It's not some demon. It's not a blank face. The narrator looks down and sees, with no doubt, the face of his wife, Lady Mariel.
The shock of that, it breaks the laws of physics. She died back home. She was buried. And yet here she is, in a city he's never even been to.
The whole coincidence defense just shatters instantly. He is forced to confront this impossible reality. He ran away from her death.
Only to walk right into a city that's eternally reenacting it for him.
It's the ultimate irony. By running, he didn't escape. He took a shortcut straight to the confrontation. It's like the universe itself said, no, you don't get to just walk away from this.
His cruelty was so potent, it actually stained the fabric of reality and created this city, this funeral, these bells just for him. So he sees her face. He knows it's her. Does he fall to his knees? Does he confess his sins?
No. He does the only thing he knows how to do.
He runs. Again.
Flight is his only coping mechanism. He turns and he flees the cathedral. But this is where the environment shifts again. When he first entered, the city was just foggy and confusing. Now, Smith describes the streets as becoming labyrinthine.
I love that shift. A labyrinth isn't just a maze, it's a trap. It feels like the city is now actively trying to keep him there.
The geometry of the city itself seems to be conspiring against him. He runs for hours. Think about that.
Yeah.
Hours of pure panic, running through these identical foggy cobblestone streets with those bells still just hammering away in his ears.
He's a rat in a maze that he built himself.
It's a perfect manifestation of his internal state. His mind is a mess of guilt and panic, so the city becomes a mess of winding streets. He's literally lost in his own head.
And the terror is that there might not be an exit because, as we said, he is the source of the horror. You can't find the exit to a building you're carrying on your own back. But the story says he does eventually find the road. He stumbles out of the city limits, the fog thins out, maybe the bells fade a bit. He's back in the old world countryside.
He physically escapes, yes. But the real question is, has he actually escaped anything?
I would argue absolutely not. I mean, before, he was running from a memory, a regret. Now he's running from a reality. He saw her.
Exactly. The denial is gone. He can no longer pretend it was just a bad temper or a tragic accident. He has seen the funeral. He knows the universe holds him responsible.
So he might be walking down a quiet country road again, but he's haunted now in a way that is just total and absolute.
Which makes you wonder about Malnéant itself. We talked about the name Bad Void. Do you think if you or I walked down that same road, we would find a city with funeral bells?
Or would we just find an empty field?
That's the most fascinating question Smith leaves us with. It suggests that Malnéant might not be a fixed location on a map. It could be a subjective trap, a phenomenon that only rises from the fog for those who have a certain weight of guilt on their soul.
Like a magnet for a guilty conscience, it just pulls you in.
Or, and this is maybe more disturbing, the city exists, but it changes its face for every traveler. Maybe for someone else it's a city celebrating a wedding or a city of total silence. But for our narrator, it became the funeral city.
Because that's what he needed to see.
That's what he brought with him. Smith takes that psychological truth, that we project our internal states onto the world, and he just makes it literal. The narrator's guilt is so powerful, it literally built the walls and summoned the fog.
It weaponizes that idea. The environment doesn't just match his mood, it attacks him with it.
Right.
It's also interesting that he's completely isolated. I mean, he gets turned away at the end, but he never really has a conversation with anyone.
And that isolation is key to the punishment. He's forced to be an observer of his own tragedy. He can't stop the funeral. He can't apologize to the corpse. He can only watch.
It's a hell of his own making.
Quite literally.
You know, we often talk about horror in terms of jump scares or gore, but this story hits on a much deeper fear, the fear that we are known, that our secrets aren't actually secret, that the universe keeps a ledger and eventually the bill comes due.
That is what makes this story endure. It strips away the comfort of anonymity. We all like to think that if we move to a new town, hey, nobody knows what we did. This story says, here, and that is enough.
And that cruel and vicious temper, it comes right back to bite him. It's a cautionary tale about character, his character flaw, his cruelty. That was the seed. Malnéant was just the tree that grew from it.
A poisonous tree, indeed.
Yeah.
And it kind of forces you to ask yourself, what cities are we building with our own actions? If you walked into a city built entirely of your own past behaviors, would it be a place you'd want to visit?
That is a terrifying thought. I'd hope for a city of pleasant brunch spots, but, you never know.
Let's hope so.
So before we wrap, I want to circle back to the end one more time. He leaves, he's back on the road, and we assume he just, keeps walking forever.
That's the implication. He's like the ancient mariner or the wandering Jew. He's cursed to roam, carrying this knowledge with him.
But here's a thought that really kept me up after this reading. We talk about whether the city was real or a hallucination. What if? What if Malnéant was entirely a manifestation of his mind? A hallucination brought on by guilt and exhaustion. Well, if the city was in his head, then leaving the city is just another part of the delusion. He never actually escaped the labyrinth. He might still be sitting in that cathedral or wandering that maze and this is the worst one, he might never have even left his home.
So he's sitting in the room where his wife died.
Yes, completely catatonic, hallucinating this entire journey to the old world while just staring at a wall.
That is a chilling interpretation.
Yeah.
It would mean the entire story, the travel, the city, the escape, it's all just the firing of a broken mind trying to process the unprocessable. He's trapped in a loop he can never exit.
And that, my friends, is why Clark Ashton Smith is a master. He leaves you with a map that leads nowhere.
A map to a place you definitely do not want to go.
Well, thank you for taking this trip to Malnéant with us. Maybe check your own conscience before you go to sleep tonight, just in case you hear bells ringing in the distance.
Indeed. Until next time.